you're searching for property online, you see all of these different labels: active, available, for sale, under contract. What does all that mean? We'll talk about it coming up next. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Nonaka here with the Buy Big Island video blog at the new studio. You guys see behind me over here, we got some new stuff, some wallpaper up. Had a birthday last week and some of my awesome agents came in and surprised me and fixed up the office because they were tired of looking at all the ugly stuff behind me. So super cool. Also had a question this week, a request to do a video on what do all the statuses mean for properties that are online, because depending on all the different sites you go to, it can be very different, right? You have all these different sites: Trulia, Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, and some of them use different terminology to mean the same thing, and it can be confusing when you look at all these different properties and you're not sure what they mean, because what you want to focus on obviously is the properties that are for sale and are available to see if you're on the hunt to buy a piece of property. So commonly what you'll see on a lot of these sites are available, for sale, and active, and those all kind of mean the same thing, that the property is for sale and you can go and schedule a showing and go and see it. Then you have some other statuses that can be a little bit more confusing. You have pending, contingent, under contract, in escrow. All of those things pretty much mean the same thing, that the property is in escrow, unavailable. Currently, they have a contract with a buyer and they're going through that process. It doesn't necessarily mean they're not showing it. They may be showing it and accepting backup offers in a busy market like we're in right now. But in general, that property is not currently available to make an offer on because you already have an accepted offer. We've done videos on backup offers before, and that may be a possibility, but those properties are already in escrow. And then the other status that comes up a lot that sometimes has a negative connotation is back on the market, right? And some people think like, oh, there must be something wrong with that property. Why did it fall out of escrow? And it's important to remember, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with the property per se. There's a lot of different reasons that could cause a property to come back on the market. And in this really busy, crazy time that we're in, some of it can be just straight pure emotions from the buyer's side where they change their mind, right? So on the property side, definitely there can be issues that come up with a property. There could be an inspection that gets done and a buyer cancels based off of something that they find. There could be disclosure issues. You could find out that there's permitting issues. You could do a survey and find out that there's setback or violations on the encroachment violations on the property boundaries. All kinds of stuff could come up during the escrow process that could cause that property to not qualify and have the deal fall out of escrow. The biggest one a lot of times being the appraisal in the market like this, where the appraisals are lagging the market value and the appraisal may come in low and a buyer and seller can't agree on what to do at that point, and then it could fall out of escrow. So definitely could be the property. That's totally possible. But on the flip side, a lot of times, and I wish I had data on this, I don't have percentages on how many times it's the property versus how many times it's the buyer. I don't think escrow companies track that, because at the end of the day, there has to be mutual agreement that both sides agree to cancel. So it's not necessarily one specific reason, and it's not a data point you probably can collect. But a lot of times it's the buyer that cancels. Biggest reason being they don't qualify for their financing, right? There's an issue with their loan, there's an issue with their finances. Buyers a lot of times disqualify themselves. We've done videos before on don't do anything stupid during the escrow process and buy a new car or file your tax returns or have some huge expense that throws your financial situation off. Don't quit your job, simple stuff like that. So a lot of times it's the buyer that causes that property to fall out of escrow because they don't qualify for their loan. In the crazy market that we're in right now, another very common thing that's happening is people get super excited. They bid way over asking price so they can get into a house. They really want to get something because there's a feeding frenzy going on and there's so much competition. And then a week or two goes by and they come to their senses and they're like, man, do I really want to pay $50,000 over asking price? Or they take a closer look at the comps and really don't feel comfortable committing to paying that much for a property. Or they do it sight unseen. We're seeing this a lot where they bid on property sight unseen. They come here for the inspection a week later and they see that it's really not a property that they like, and the pictures weren't representative of what the property actually looks like. It's next to a road that they don't like, all kinds of stuff, right? And then people cancel at that point, or they just change their mind. They get cold feet, whatever it is. So there's a lot of different reasons why a buyer causes a cancellation, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the property. So don't really blame the property all the time for putting it back on the market. An important thing to note here is that if a property does come back on the market and it was due to something that came up during the process and became unacceptable, the sellers now need to disclose that. That's law. If they find out something that affects the material value of the property, they now have to disclose it. So that is something you can ask a listing agent. Tell your realtor, hey, ask the listing agent what happened, why did this fall out of escrow? And in most cases, they're going to tell you, well, buyer didn't qualify, or they'll say, hey, there was an encroachment that came up on the survey and the buyer wasn't comfortable with it, so we had to cancel, or whatever it is. Could be a title issue where someone who died didn't transfer title properly, and now the people that you thought could sell it couldn't sell it, and you find that out during the escrow process. These are things you could find out prior to even putting it on the market, but they happen. So lots of different ways a property can fall out of escrow and go back on the market. Doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with the property. Reach out and ask. That's what we're here for, to help you with stuff like that. I hope this helps kind of clarify what all those different statuses mean. And maybe the most important piece of advice is, when you're searching for property online, throw a filter on. All of these different sites should have a filter that will let you filter the statuses. So if they're showing you everything, you may want to turn off the properties that are currently under contract or in escrow, and only focus on the ones that are available. Because right now there's about twice as many properties in escrow and under contract than there are properties available. So you may be looking at 100 homes, but only 35 of them actually are available to purchase. So you're confusing yourself, and you're seeing a lot more stuff on a map than you normally would, because you don't have those filters turned off. So that's one thing you may want to go in and do, and that'll simplify your search a little bit and let you focus on the stuff that is actually available. And you won't drive your realtor nuts by sending them a bunch of stuff that is currently under contract, and they just got to send you back an email saying, hey, that's under contract, but do you still want to see it? Because a lot of times right now, people have a lower incentive to cancel because there's so little on the market. So they may, just because the property doesn't appraise, pay over the appraised value and close. And so properties that come back on may or may not, mean that something is wrong. A lot of times it is the buyer that has an issue and causes that property to go back on the market. So if you have any questions, like always, put them in the comments below. You can email me at dylan@buybigisland.com. Would appreciate a subscribe to the channel if you made it this far. Almost at 1,000 subscribers. Would really appreciate getting there in the near future. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Aloha.